Started.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much to the more than 500 participants who registered to be part of this webinar. It is exciting times for the upstream space globally, but particularly for Africa, and especially for a hotspot which Namibia is. This webinar is coming at a very timely time, and I am happy to be joined by Maggy Shino, who is a petroleum commissioner with the Republic of Namibia and the Ministry of Energy in Namibia, as well as Thom, who is a director of research with Mackenzie. My name, ladies and gentlemen, is Verner Ayukegba. I am a senior vice president with the African Energy Chamber. Now, briefly to the Energy Chamber. The African Energy Chamber is an organization that is based out of Johannesburg and seeks to attract investment in the oil and gas and energy space across the entire continent. We strongly believe at the African Energy Chamber that development can only be sustainable if at all we have access to affordable and reliable power. We're therefore very excited about developments in countries like Namibia because it affords us the kind of energy that we need to be able to power not just Namibia, but the entire SADC sub-region, as well as the entire African continent. Today, we're going to be hearing from Ian around recent developments in Namibia, the commerciality of such, as well as the prospects which Mackenzie sees. We're also going to be hearing from Maggy, who's going to be talking about Namibia from where she sits in the ministry as Petroleum Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to hold you much, but just briefly to Namibia. Namibia is an amazing country with a very stable political environment. We just recently saw an election, which for us very excitingly brought, you don't always see this, but brought a woman to power. We're likely to continue to see from our view the kind of stability that we have seen in Namibia over the past years, consistently topping tables. I look forward to a very interesting and exciting webinar. And if at all you have any questions, please do feel free to type in your questions and we shall make sure that they are addressed. This webinar series, this particular webinar is part and one of a series of webinars which we at the African Energy Chamber are going to be holding to highlight and showcase opportunities across the board in Africa when it comes to investing across the entire value chain. I do encourage you all to continue to watch our website, both at the energychamber.org as well as Africa Energy Week website, to be able to make sure that you can get not just this recording, but also get announcements around new webinars as well as developments in the energy space in Africa. Please do follow us on LinkedIn if you are not yet registered, as well as on other media platforms such as Facebook and X. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me. And I will start by passing it over to Ian. Ian, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Verner, for the introduction, and thanks to the African Energy Chamber for the invitation and opportunity to participate in this webinar. So, yeah, my name's Thom, Research Director in our Sub-Saharan Africa Upstream team at Mackenzie. Our core focus is commercial analysis and also looking in the subsurface. And it's fair to say that Namibia is the topic that I've had the most questions on in recent years covering Africa. So this topic really is an exciting one. So let me share my screen and I'll run you through some of our recent content. So hopefully that will be showing up. You can give me a thumbs up, Verner, if you can see that coming through. Yep, great. Okay, so let's get going. So what I'm going to show you first is a couple of snapshots from our Lens Upstream platform. This is looking at offshore licensed acreage in Namibia. The map on the right is showing all the blocks colored by the different operators, and you can see the discoveries just showing through in the south. You've got the oil fields, and then there's the Kudu gas field. And the first point to make about Namibia is the scale of this is just enormous. So there's 220,000 square kilometers of offshore licensed acreage. And if you compare that to somewhere like the North Sea, if you combine Norway, UK, Denmark, and Netherlands, that doesn't add up to as much as we show here. And another illustration is if you take the maritime boundary, the top left to the bottom left points, that distance over 1,500 kilometers, it's more than the distance from London to Rome. Or if there's anyone here listening in the US, the Texas state border to Washington, DC is just a little bit over that distance. So this really is huge. And then if you consider since the Gaff discovery in 2022 that really kicked off this huge interest, there's been just over 20 deepwater wells drilled. And if you compare that to the likes of the North Sea or the US Gulf of Mexico that have had hundreds of thousands of wells, this area is still hugely underexplored. So keep that in mind when considering things like exploration success rates and dry holes. It's still very early days. If you look at the block operators, the chart here, you can see Namcor at the top. That's the largest net acreage holder. It's the national oil company. It holds a 10% stake, typically as a carried interest in all the blocks. And it also has a few of its own blocks just to the east and to the north of the Kudu gas discovery. Of the four majors, ExxonMobil has the largest acreage, but that's in the far north, sort of quite distant to where the discoveries are. So despite having the largest acreage, it's probably the least attractive. To the south, you've got Shell in the green, and then you've got Total Energies to the west of that in the pink, where the discoveries are. Galp, just to the west of Kudu, that's the Mopani oil discovery. So that's probably the main ones, but you've got other interesting blocks. Chevron block just to the north of Total Energies. If you give me a second, I'll try and get a laser pointer. I'm not sure if that's coming through the Chevron block there. Rhino Resources just to the south of Kudu. Interesting. Azule Energy, the joint venture between BP and Eni, farmed in, and the first well has been completed and a second well drilling ahead. So that's really quite exciting as well. Further to the north, Pan-Continental block in orange. Woodside had a farm-in option there, but just decided not to proceed. And I'll come back to that in a moment to share some of our analysis. Back on the chart, Eco Atlantic is the second largest net acreage holder, but they've got much of their acreage further to the north in the sort of the Walvis Basin, so a different part of part there, so away from the main active area. So that is the main operators. With Azule Energy, you've got 6 majors in Namibia. So lots of excitement there. So focusing in on the Orange Basin and identifying really this quite tremendous run of wells. But pretty much each of these wells is a big well. 2022 February discoveries, Graph, and then Venus. really kick-started this really tremendous sort of intensive phase. We've seen more than 20 exploration and appraisal wells drilled, 10 discoveries by our account. Really quite remarkable run of activity there. The two to call out would be Venus, one of the original two discoveries by Total Energies, really large structure looking like that should move forward to development. And then much more recently in January last year, Galp's discovery with the Mopane 1X well, and that discovery looks really tremendous. So lots to be excited about there. There have been a few dry holes, but that's typical for exploration. And then, of course, recently we heard that Shell had written off its exploration expenses for its Namibia acreage, in effect saying that these discoveries are sub-commercial. So some ups and downs on the journey, but nevertheless, Mopane and Venus, we're watching those ones closely and likely to see development activity come through there. And we're also seeing a number of wells. So the Rhino Resources Capricornus well still drilling ahead, right in the sweet spot there. And Total Energies drilling the Marula 1X well to the south of Venus. So drilling in progress. And we think the runway for exploration in Orange Basin, and particularly Namibia Orange Basin, it's got more to offer. So beyond the Marula 1X well that Total's drilling, they've also identified the Olympia prospect, so that could be drilled later this year. Perhaps not back to back, but certainly should be a firm well this year. We also see the prospects for BW Energy to drill a well or two. They've identified the Karas sort of exploration appraisal, so that should happen this year. The Rhino Resources, depending on the results from the two wells there, we may or may not see some further activity. We were anticipating in the Pan-continental block the Saturn exploration well, but that's now in doubt, with Woodside deciding not to proceed with its farm in there. So really quite a lot to see happening this year in Namibia. And just to quickly highlight, the basin, of course, doesn't respect the country borders and extends into South Africa. So we've got a number of prospects there that look to be firming up. The Orange Basin deepwater block should see a well. There's a block 3B, 4B, and Northern Cape ultra deep block as well. So between Total Energies and Shell, we could see a few wells drilled there. Perhaps not this year. They may be more of a 2026 story. And then further in the long sort of medium term, at least the block 5, 6, and 7, Shell may also opt to drill a well there. So certainly there's wells being identified and firmed up in South Africa. So lots to see in the sort of the short term and medium term, continuing that Orange Basin exploration story. So I mentioned the Pan-continental Woodside block, and just to sort of reflect on that with some analysis, this is based on a report that we issued as part of our Lens subsurface coverage. We published this report in June last year. And what the map is showing is it's a combined risk map that brings together the 3 dimensions of source, reservoir, and seal, and it's based on all of the sort of the publicly available data, the information that we have in wells, and it identifies for the source rock if that's effective, if the reservoir, if there's a presence, and seal if there's a presence, and that then it combines that, and in very simple terms, what it does is it identifies, based on the information that was available, what's really the sweet spot. And you can see in the area around the Venus Shell and extending into the Mopane discoveries, also including into the Rhino resources, they all lie within the sweet spot that's seen here. Now, curiously, the shape of this is quite telling. It falls off, or the risk elevates very rapidly as you move north. So particularly the risk to the north being the source rock effectiveness, but there's also reservoir risk. So if you're looking at what Woodside has decided about not proceeding with its farm-in option at Pan Continental, certainly this report back from June 2024 identified the risk was elevated very rapidly as you move to the north. But that contrasts very much with the picture to the south, where you can see that 0.7. So that's the probability there extending well to the south there. So that sort of adds to the view that the blocks that Shell and Total Energies are holding and the wells that they're planning, there's a strong basis for those wells, and you can understand the interest there for that. So yeah, check out if you have access to our reports, that cracking the exploration code in deepwater Namibia and South Africa. So looking at again some of the positions from the main players, and what we're showing here is a pie chart of the resources. So that's 2P plus 2C. I haven't put the numbers on the pie chart just because it can be a moving picture. And just to give a sense, I think this is just north of about 5 billion barrels of oil and gas equivalent. But you can see the top 4 players, Galp, Qatar Energy, Total Energies, and Namcor, holding more than 3/4 of the recoverable resources. And particularly for Galp, this is a real game changer. The Mopane discovery, they've got a very high equity position there. So for Galp, this is really really a company changer in many respects, certainly when it comes to their upstream business. Total Energies, Qatar Energy, really material positions there on the back of the Venus discovery and Maggy. So just to give a sort of quick overview of what it means for some of the companies, Galp, 80% interest, looking to move that forward to development. It's clearly going to have to farm down its very high stake, bring in a partner that can help share the cost and the risk, and also really drive that project forward. Qatar Energy, really the reflection there is that its high impact exploration strategy is paying off. Total Energies, it very much did weight its exploration efforts in recent years into Namibia and sort of wider West Africa. And that's now moving ahead with the planning stage for the first FPSO. So that certainly looks very promising. Shell, it's drilled 6 exploration wells and also 3 appraisal wells. So in fact, it drilled more wells than any other operator. But as you're not going to take those forward to development, it's part and parcel of exploration. But Shell at least did test out all the ideas in its acreage. Chevron farmed in and drilled a well which was dry. Azule Energy, again partnering with Verner Resources, so Eni BP joint venture, and it's made a discovery and it's drilling its second well. So that's one that we're watching very closely. So when you have certainly six majors in Namibia and 5 of them in the Orange Basin where the main action is, that's a good indicator. And I'll just move now to, this is the last slide, and talk now about some of, we're well into the exploration phase. It's been more than 3 years since the the initial discoveries, more and more looking to the first sort of developments and what some of the challenges are around this. So I think first things first, the developments in Namibia are going to be oil-led FPSO projects and potentially in some of the discoveries, multi-FPSOs. Low permeability rocks is going to be a big challenge, but to some extent that's offset by high quality, sort of low viscosity fluids and the thickness of the reservoir, meaning that you can really, especially with horizontal drilling, you can really maximize the contact with the reservoirs. But nevertheless, permeability is a challenge, and also gas ratios is a challenge. So we heard from Total Energy CEO 500 cubic meters of gas per cubic meter of oil, or in the other terms, like 3,000 cubic feet of gas per barrel. So these are very gassy discoveries, and any project that's going to handle that volume of gas, that's taking up valuable real estate on vessels that might be producing here. So what we're showing here is, I would say at this early stage, an indicative production profile for a Venus development and Mopane, but subject to still a lot of uncertainty at this stage before field development plans are approved and projects start really committing with EPC contracts being awarded, etc. So yeah, nevertheless, permeability in gas is going to be a big issue, but that's not the only issue. So ultra deep waters, in the case of Venus, particularly the long distance to shore, the ocean conditions. Some of these projects really are at the cutting edge of what the deepwater sector globally is achieving. So this is going to be cutting edge when it comes. And then on the market, of course, new developments in Namibia that doesn't have an oil and gas sector, and what to do with gas is going to be a particular challenge. So just to close off, I mentioned at the start, Namibia is a topic in Africa that we get more questions on more than anything else. And probably one of the top questions we get is, how does this compare to Guyana? Is this the next Guyana? And I think the answer is yes and no, in that it's hugely exciting. There's lots of interest to drill wells and explore and open up a completely new play. And you can see that with the companies that have farmed in and drilled 20 plus wells. But I think from a development point of view in particular, it's a bit more challenging. So if you look at the gas ratio in Venus compared to some of the gas ratios in the projects that ExxonMobil was developed in Guyana, you've got roughly double the gas content in Namibia. You've also got 50% further distance to shore, certainly for Venus, and you've got ultra deep waters. So, in 25 months, you had the first FID. So I think in Namibia, things are a bit more challenging. It'll take a bit longer, but certainly the resources are there, and at least a couple of projects look very promising when it comes to FPSO developments in the relatively short term. So we are continuing to watch Namibia very closely, and we continue to engage on this topic, and happy to continue the conversation at the Q&A later on in the webinar. But for now, thanks everyone, and I'll just hand back to Werner.
Thank you, Ian, for what is quite an interesting presentation. Key takeaways for me is the resources are definitely there. It's not the same as Guyana as a result of a number of things like the subsurface, porous nature of the rocks or not, as well as certainly you're looking at gas content. I'm sure we're going to have conversations around, the possibility of potential gas plays, associated gas plays in that sense. How much sense does that make? Particularly because in Africa, we have huge need for gas to power. Or are we looking solely at LNG kinds of plays? Now, those are all questions that are being asked, I suspect, beyond this particular webinar in terms of understanding. Just to the audience, before we move on to Maggy, please take note from the 29th of September to the 3rd of October is Africa Energy Week, the biggest oil and gas and energy conference on the continent, where we will be continuing these conversations in live together with Ian, as well as Maggy, and a whole host of other people from other hotspots across Africa. I can think there of Mozambique, as well as Senegal, Angola, of course, and a whole bunch of companies across the board. So please make sure that you go to our website, Africa Energy Chamber, as well as aecweek.com for Energy Week to be ensure that you book your places and your spaces for Africa Energy Week. I will now pass on to Maggy, who's going to give us a sense of what she sees as Petroleum Commissioner sitting in Namibia and engaging with a whole host of operators as well as interested players who are looking at Namibia. What do they need to know? Thank you. Over to you, Maggy.
Thank you very much, Verner. Thank you, Ian, for that perspective. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all our listeners online. It's a pleasure for us to be here. And I'm delighted to speak to you today. Allow me to just then get the screen up and running. And is Thank you very much. And as I say, it's a pleasure, and we appreciate the opportunities that we are accorded by the Africa Energy Chamber to put Namibia on the platform, and for us to be able then to share our experience with the whole world, and to share what we are doing as a country right now in terms of the oil and gas aspects. It comes, the webinar itself comes at a very interesting time because today is the last day of Namibian era in being led by the current president, and the last regime is coming to an end today. At the break of dawn tomorrow, we are celebrating our 35th independence as a country, and at the same time, we are also inaugurating our first female president. And we have an idiom here that we keep saying that in Namibia, the future is now female. And as you know, with that comes a lot of opportunities for women, not only for Namibia, but also across the whole world. We are expecting to inaugurate into power Her Excellency President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah tomorrow, and she comes in with a full spectrum of opportunities and possibilities and hope for the Namibian nation, empowering a nation, energizing the future. This will be Namibia's first female president, who is not only making history right now, but is also steering the nation into a dynamic new era of the oil and gas industry, with her bold leadership, not only for the sector and for the whole country as a whole. So allow me to congratulate her and the entire Namibian nation, and also for us to be celebrating our democratically owned and independence. with that, as a nation, we have demonstrated by being a democratic nation in terms of stability. This we have not only demonstrated it in terms of our political environment and our leadership, but also in leading the growth of the economy. What we are offering as a state is that when you are operating or working in Namibia, we will give you a stable economy, and we are also giving you an industry that is aligned to a government that is aligned to the industry needs. And we are also making sure that we are creating a conducive environment for the business that are coming into Namibia to thrive, and for those investments that are coming into Namibia to be yield.
I think we might have lost Maggie there. We might be want to. Okay. We'll just wait. I suspect Maggie is going to log in again. Apologies for that. Not sure what is going on that time. But in the meantime, Ian, might be we want to discuss a little bit of what it is that you were talking about. First of all, the difficulty around gas and gas plays. You know, what is your perspective? Are we likely to see the likes of Total try and develop a model around also developing a commercial model around that gas? Or what do you think? Is it just too expensive to be able to move in that direction or not?
Okay, I'm happy to take your question. I think Maggie's back though, so I don't know if we give
Okay, so over to you, Maggie. Sorry about that. We'll take this over, Ian, at the end of Maggie's. You're on mute, Maggie.
Apologies for that. I don't know what has happened.
All good. All good.
Okay. So what we are offering then as a state, we are offering a sustainable environment for operating in, and through this, we are doing it by ensuring, therefore, that the capital that is coming in the country, we are, as a state, we are capitalizing on the recent discoveries, both for the growing of the future as we are going forward. And with that, we are accelerating and making sure that all the discoveries that we have made recently are running on a race towards the first oil. And we are designing our policy framework and environment to ensure that we leave a sustainable impact to the local economy. But at the same time, we are also really focusing on not only looking at the Namibian atmosphere as an economy, but also looking at providing that much needed energy security that for the ever-growing energy need of the world. Namibia is coming to a point where the demand for new energy is even increasing more than what it has been. With the recent development in artificial intelligence and everything, the need or the demand for energy is growing exponentially, and Namibia is just heeding to the call of the world for providing that security of energy. We know that it's what we have in our country. These are complex developments, and as
Not too sure, but I think we're having that move in and out in terms of Maggie might possibly be having some network issues. Apologies to you again. I think Maggie's probably going to log out and log in again. Ian, do you think you want to take on the question now?
Yes. So the question was, what's going to happen with gas in
Exactly.
Namibia? And so a telltale would be we just saw Total Energies putting in its sort of the start of the process for its environmental clearance certificate this month. And in that, they've sort of revealed the background concept for the project. And certainly the initial stages is to inject the gas back into the reservoir via subsea wells. So certainly the approach that Total Energies is taking in its current application is for gas to be re-injected. And I don't see any mention of any gas pipeline to shore. So that appears to be the current concept. And if you look at, for example, Guyana or other sort of comparable deepwater oil projects, re-injecting gas into the reservoir, at least initially, is fairly typical. Now, that doesn't mean it's always going to continue to be that way, because if you just keep re-injecting gas, you can get gas recycling effect and just that sort of continuing increase in the gas ratio. So it may be that there's a gas development, 5-10 years down the road, but certainly initially expecting to see re-injection there. For Galp, again, it's not clear if they've got a preferred approach at the moment, and gas re-injection is going to be a main consideration. Alternatives could be gas delivered to shore, most likely into what would be the power sector, and places like Namibia, if it's relying on imports for its current power supply. You can see the logic there for gas to power. But then there's questions around actually what's the magnitude of that is what you're able to deliver. Is Namibia able to sort of absorb all the associated gas, or do you still need to re-inject some of it? And then it can also come down to different entities getting involved in the midstream, and then counterpart risk and all of that. So it can be very, very tricky. And the third,
Okay, let's take it over. We have Maggy who's come back. Apologies, Ian. I think I just need to let the audience know that Namibia is also blessed with a lot of beautiful rainfall. So what has happened is that we have a lot of rainfall, and of course that has an effect on the network. But Maggy, over to you.
Thank you. My sincere apologies for that. We have a joke here that 90% of Namibian problems can be solved by rain, but it also means that 100% of our infrastructure stop working when the rain comes, because we just don't know what to do during the rainy season, and that's exactly the same status as we have it today. Just confirm for me, colleagues, if you are seeing the screen.
We have the hydrocarbons licensing map is on.
Yes. Okay. I'll try to save a little bit of the bandwidth by saving the video. So what we have, we are running an open licensing regime still, and on the screen is a license map that shows then the areas as we have that are licensed right now and the blocks that are still open. Currently, we are we are operating in an open licensing regime. We are opening up the receiving of the application shortly, simply because of the time that we have had to just review or to make sure that the administrative procedures have been tightened up a little bit, and we are opening that up shortly now within the new administration to receive application. As you can see on the license map, a lot of licenses are concentrated within the Orange Basin, and the next hotspot is then also the Valfes, and you can see that there is a large number of blocks that are open both in ultra deep water, and also shallow water environment. And this is what we are welcoming for applications. But zoning in then into the prospectivity of the Orange Basin. I think Ian touched a bit on this. What we are seeing is that there's basically three hydrocarbon systems that are operating within, that we are seeing within the Orange Basin. We have the basin floor fans where we have demonstrated them through the Venus and the Maggy, and then we have the slope channels that carries the discoveries as we have them in the Shell block, Graf, Larona, Seti, and Yonka discoveries. And then you also have then what we call now the new inner basin. And the new inner basin is what is carrying the discoveries of both the Mopane Gulf and then the Kudu. But above that, we have a large number of prospects, as you can see right on that map, that need still to be tested. You can see in PEL 90 Chevron that a large number of prospects are still available. Even within the Gulf block, they're still available. And above that, we have the certain complex within the pan-continental block and the prospectivity. I'll speak a bit more on it a little bit later. Then I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on in terms of what the activities of where we are with some of the licenses. The major one that we are working is then growing or working at a very fast pace of advancing then the Venus discovery towards it being the first project for projection in Namibia within the block 2913 really is the heartbeat of the Venus. It cuts across the entire block almost. It's a major structure, really textbook examples that you wouldn't find anywhere. Very thick reservoir, 80 to 120 meter, and we are targeting to make sure that the capex and the opex that we are producing the barrel is at least at $20 a barrel. And the oil density on the oil that we have in place is about 10 to 20 MBO, and we are looking at the permeability. The result of the appraisal campaign has really improved now our understanding on the permeability, and we think that with that volume in place, we can then be able to make it. It's very light crude oil, as we have said. And we have gone to the market to design and engineer the first development project of producing about 150,000 barrels per day. And we are now working towards making that FID in 2026. But the upside potential for the Venus block is still massive, and it's because of that upside potential. That's why we are now pursuing to drilling the Marula well again this year, and also adding another Olymp well, which is also an exploration well, to also still increase on that volume of what we are seeing on the mighty Venus. So it is on track as I've indicated. Then moving forward is then the Gulf. Gulf complex keeps also surprising us with 5 wells drilled and 1 DST. We are happy to announce that at the beginning of this year, we started with good news of adding another discovery of Mopane 3X well, which then also unlocked further reservoirs within the Mopane complex. And we just this week completed the 3,500 kilometers of 3D high density resolution data that we were acquiring, which will also then be integrated in designing the field development and then working towards placing the appraisal wells and probably producers in the near future. So we are very excited that the team, the joint venture Gulf, Custos Energy and NAMCO are working almost 24 hours on the clock to make sure that we We then move at the first phase to appraise then these discoveries, and to be able to come to the market to inform you very shortly of the volumetrics that we are seeing, and being able to move the project into FID also very, very soon. Moving then further on, as I said, the 3D data that was acquired was very successful, and we are now just moving to the processing and the interpretation of that data for us to understand the field better. And going down south then into still well 39 Shell. The Shell and the partners are working very hard into calibrating the information that they have on the 9 wells that has been drilled. We are also adding then the data that we have received of a 10,000 square kilometer of seismic data that cover almost 90% of the block. And together with the government, the partners, we are now working together to ensure that we have designed a pathway towards development. There's a lot of permutation that needs to come at play. There's also a lot of levels of cooperation that is required. And as you know, the resources and the environment that we're operating in need a lot of understanding, as this is the first. And it's because of that that we are right now just high grading then the appraisal results, so that then we can define better the course of direction of movement towards Q4 of 2025. We will then have a positive position in terms of the direction in terms of the field, developing the field. While we have been drilling the exploration wells around the area, a new input has also been provided in terms of what we are seeing within the Kudu block. We have identified new targets that also see now the upside potential of the Kudu area, not only for gas, but it really look like now the potential for oil is also existing within the Kudu main area. And it's because of that that we are planning to drill 2 additional wells towards the end of this year. And these wells are then just to increase the upside potential. And as I said, to see what lies beneath that gas reservoir in terms of another upside as we are observing it. Rhino Resources is currently in the water. They have started since Q3 2024 with the Sagittarius well, which was a discovery. We are now busy really in the midst of it all with the drilling of the second well, which is what we call the Capricornus. And the results could really come in at any time. And following on from the Capricornus, we then have also the prospect of Valance and Alpha Centauri and Mars, which sometimes we call it the red cat, that we will also test. So Rhino together with Azul are really working very hard, and we are wishing them all the best in terms of the drilling of the current well, and we're hoping that the result will also come out soon, and we will be able to inform the market. Another positive news that I wanted to bring to the market is the new movement by Chevron. As you are aware, Chevron came into Namibia, acquired Bell 90, successfully drilled the Kapana well, which was for us a technical success. Chevron has then further progressed into acquiring another license within the Balfour Basin, which we call License 82, together with their partners, Trago and Namco. They are now working aggressively towards finalizing the interpretation of the 3D and data that has been acquired in 2023. And they are now really at the last stage of maturing that prospect. While still in PEL 90, the data that has been received from Katpana has provided a great insight, and the future planning of wells are now ongoing between both in PEL 90 and in PEL 82. And it's because of this that's why Namibia is really buzz with a hype of activities that we are currently doing, and the future outlook in terms of work that we are expecting is just voluminous for us. Onshore, we are also progressing. The Recon Africa is really moving very well to mature the Damara Fault Belt. They have just finished drilling the Naingopo well and are now moving to a new location, also still within the Damara Fault Belt. And it's quite a complex geology, and the results are coming in, and we are seeing that the prospectivity onshore is also open for one to be able to invest in. With that, that was just a snapshot of all the work that we are currently doing, but internally also as a ministry, and together with our technical partners, we are really now taking also on board the results as it's coming from the wells that we have drilled. Namibia is a very, very big country, and the number of wells that have been drilled truly have just barely scratched the surface in terms of unlocking the full potential of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the Orange Basin, we have managed to de-risk it. We have managed now to locate only some of those hydrocarbon accumulation, and they are large. But we are also seeing comparable reservoir and the source rock signatures across the whole deepwater Lüderitz, Walvis, and Namib Basin, which are all underexplored. I have a slide later just to show the distribution of the Upstream source rock as it cut across the whole entire offshore margin of Namibia. And therefore, the results of what we are expecting in terms of prospectivity for the rest of the basin is just massive. With the work that has been done internally by the ministry, as you can see, we have done a prospective inventory, and as you can see, all across the whole entire offshore margin, we are now seeing a number of prospects that we have mapped, and these are showing alignment between the seismic amplitude and really the sedimentary features that we are seeing on the data. And we are also seeing additional traps that we think has a big potential in terms of the Sin Rift that is being seen within the Namib Basin, similar to the discoveries in the Campos Basin. And with that, we are also seeing a lot of analogs that are also similar to Senegal, all across then the Lüderitz and the Walvis and the Namib Basin, just as we are seeing what we are seeing within the Orange Basin. Furthermore, also the deep water prospectivity, as we have seen it within the Orange Basin, can be observed right within the Lüderitz and the Walvis, with the basin floor fence unlapping on the outer hires, very, very, very clearly identified, and you can be able to map them. And that's why the prospectivity, especially within the deep water, runs then across the whole entire margin of the Namibian offshore. With the distribution of the source rock, the recent discovery bodes very, very well with the Namibian Lüderitz sub-basins. And what we have done of recent is that we have just made sure that together with our partners, especially PGS and Shearwater and NAMCO, we have acquired a large volume of multi-client data, about 17,000 kilometers of high-quality 3D seismic data has been acquired just in this financial year alone. And we have also managed to reprocess now 26,000 kilometers of 2D, and therefore this have just made it much more easier for one to be able to come in, and all this information is available for licensing and for interpreting between the ministry and NAMCO as the custodian of the data. With that, ladies and gentlemen, the future looks indeed very, very bright. This is an image that has been prepared by Rystad Energy, and it gives just the outlook of the number of wells that we are expecting between now, 2025 up to 2032. For this year, as I said, we expect at least a minimum of 7 wells. 2 or 3 of those have already been drilled, and the rest are waiting now on the weather window, and everything is working according to plan. That is the volume of activities that we expect now between this year and the coming years, which just shows that the number of prospects in Namibia will be turned over. And we are indeed not just a hotspot by speaking, but really by the potential that the country holds. As we move now in terms of policy, we as government has also ensured that the petroleum industry contribute positively to the growth of the economy of Namibia. And by doing that, we have developed what we call a local content policy right at the early stage of the industry. With the local content policy, we are having mainly very, very few target objectives that we want to achieve as a nation. The first one is just to ensure that the Namibian government secures and derives benefits from the sector, since it's an economic sector. And the second one is just that the policy lays the framework for us to ensure that there are a number of strategies have been employed to ensure a targeted and phased participation of Namibian goods, Namibian labor, Namibian services, Namibian companies and financing just along the value chain of doing the exploration and production and development activities in Namibia. With that, we are also positioning ourselves to be an African energy hub. And this we are planning to do so by dedicating the port of the Namibian infrastructures through especially the port of Lüderitz to be the energy hub for Namibia. We are now looking at making sure that this port is ready for this role ready immediately after FIDs. And we are calling for also opportunities are therefore available also for investment in terms of infrastructures development, the terminals, the receiving hubs, and all other infrastructures that the industry needs. The country is completely new to the sector, but we are not really starting from scratch. So we are looking for private-public partnership and direct private investments to come in assisting developing the infrastructure that are eagerly waited or needed for the industry to grow. With that, finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are working towards a very accelerated and fast-paced movement to production. Both our Venus and our Mopane complex are moving really at a fast pace towards them all making that FID. However, we are expecting to have partnerships and collaboration from the stakeholders that we are working towards to going forward. We expect also our stakeholders to have an alignment with the Namibian society and to also take some responsibility in ensuring, therefore, that the business as we have it today contribute positively to the development of the very young Namibian, or very small Namibian local economy. That we are looking forward to. At the same time, We are also looking at working together with our stakeholders so that there must be efficiency. There must be efficiency in operation in Namibia. And this efficiency, we are adopting it by taking on board technology and innovation. But most important, we value the fact that different players comes with different expertise and different specialization. And it's for that we welcome a diversification of industry player. And therefore, as you see our license map, as it's open, all the open blocks, we look forward to filling them with those partners that meet these criteria in order to assist us to unlock then the potential that we are seeing, not only in the Orange Basin, in the Lutherets, in the Valfes, and also in the Namib Basin, plus onshore Namibia. On last note, I would like to thank you for your attention, but I would also want to take this opportunity to invite you to Namibia, to Windhoek. We are going to hold the Namibia International Energy Conference that's going to take place 23rd to 25th of April in Windhoek under the theme Leading the Way and turning Namibia into becoming an energy hub with an in-country value created. So I invite you all to this very noble and very interactive conference for us to engage with you even more on the opportunities that the mighty land of the brave Namibia has to offer. On that note, thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, and I hand over to you then, Verner.
Thank you so very much, Maggie. Wow, that was amazing. Loads to do. By the way, I will be in Namibia. I'm encouraging everybody to come to Namibia as well. I've always had a lot of fun being at the Namibia International Energy Conference, and I'm looking forward to seeing yourself, Maggie, as well as many others there. Couple of questions. We have a number of questions here. I'm going to dive straight into it. Ian, there is a question for you here looking at gas. It's still a gas-related question. And I'm not sure that you have figures, but maybe anecdotally you could talk about, a little bit more detail about, potential of gas within the Orange Basin, as well as might be some comments around the Kudu gas discovery. That's for Ian.
Yeah, sure. Look, there's plenty of gas within the Orange Basin, Kudu gas discovery, and associated gas at the oil fields. The challenge is and is going to remain commercializing that gas. So Kudu hasn't been developed in 50 years, and that sort of underlines the challenge there. Venus project is looking to re-inject gas, at least initially. So your options are re-inject the gas, deliver it via pipe to shore for some domestic use. Probably power makes the most sense there. And then the third element might be some kind of export, and piped gas export. I've really struggled to see how that might work. So potentially export of power could be something that's a bit more feasible. But you might want to look at LNG as well, because we've seen a lot of examples in Africa. In fact, we think Africa makes up half of the world's floating LNG capacity. It just seems to tick the right boxes. So these, I think, are the concepts that are worth kind of looking at the most closely. And there's a lot of things that can change and technology markets shift. So we're continuing to watch the gas story closely, but certainly there's no easy answers from where I'm sitting.
Okay, just another one for you before I move on to Maggie. Here, there was some interest on your CCRS map in terms of what factors do you consider when you're looking at evaluating source rock and ultimately its effectiveness and ultimately reservoir risk. And then if you have an opinion on the Lüderitz Basin. I mean, we've been talking significantly about the Orange Basin as well as the risk increasing when you look at some of the acreage north of the Orange Basin in that sense, which you spoke about, going into a Walvis Basin. What is your take on the Lüderitz Basin? And yeah.
Yeah, so it's based on the data on wells that have been drilled. So, for example, like the Moosehead one well was really sort of critical one in the Orange Basin, demonstrating that there was hydrocarbon content in the source rock. So really, it's a case of really digging into the details. So we spent a lot of time looking at, for example, SPE papers that just expanded on all of the results, the technical details in the wells to piece together what do we understand about the source rock and the effectiveness of it. And then, for example, the presence or otherwise of reservoir. So it's really a case of you need to have drilled the wells and have access to the data to build this. So for something like the Lüderitz, because there hasn't been sort of successful wells, it would be very difficult to build a sort of comparable type of the risk map. So it sort of becomes into itself once you've got some data points to work with that tell you something about the source rock, tell you something about the reservoir. And we've just assumed the seal for certainly the Orange Basin is sort of zero risk effectively, given it's deep water, given the character of the wells. So
Okay.
we need to see more wells in Lüderitz to piece together that kind of broad analysis.
Okay. Maggie, this is one for you. Questions around where we are with negotiations on the tax stabilization. If there are negotiations, I don't know that this is anything to discuss here, but this is the question that I'm getting. So I'm ultimately putting it to you.
Okay. The Namibian government is a very, very open government in terms of we operate in a very open manner, especially with our operators. And the issue of stabilization has been brought forward to us. And also, we are currently busy in conversation and engagement with the operators. But what we have observed also is that it is not a very easy conversation for one to have. First of all, especially for a sovereign state, but we also, as a government, understand the need for stability to be provided for these projects, especially projects that are complex as the ones that we have in Namibia, for them to be able to take off, and why we need to therefore have that conversation. So it's an ongoing engagement. We currently, as government, don't have a position yet whether for gains, and we are engaging with NAMPOA, the Namibian Petroleum Operators Association, on the subject matter, and at this stage it's still just within the negotiation stage, and it's conversations that we are having, looking at both pros and cons for both parties. But our objective as a government is to make sure that we create what we call a win-win situation for whereby both the government and the investors could find really a balanced approach towards handling this, and a way forward that we will all be happy to take forward too. So it's work in progress.
Good. Another one for you is around what is the scale of coverage of seismic coverage in Namibia, and are you planning any seismic acquisition in the short future?
In terms of 2D seismic data, you can say the country is almost really well covered. It's the 3D that we are not very satisfied with the total coverage. What we have developed is that we see that there is a value in adding more data. As you know, that the blocks in Namibia are very large, and because of also the capital intensive of especially acquisition of 3D data, it has not been possible for us to cover all blocks as we have hoped. But most of the block have, or most of the license under their work program have proprietary data acquisition that has been built into their work program, focusing on areas that they have met from the 2D as areas where they are having sufficient leads, and then those are the ones that we want to add additional 3D that will be proprietary. But also, apart from that, we are very open. We are having memorandums of understanding with seismic vendors, and we are still open for more seismic vendors to come in terms of taking on what we call a multi-client seismic surveys, which will then be 3D surveys that can be covered, that can be acquired on a large scale, where multi-parties can be able to license and other future parties can be then able to license going forward. So the data coverage, we think it's extensive, but it's not still up to the level where we are saying that we are saturated. No.
One final question, last one for you, Maggie, before I close with Ian. Where are we with respect to local content? I have a question here, which is asking around, is there a platform for local content where companies can go and register?
We are still just in the final stage of developing, adopting the policy itself. Once the last stage that we have is doing a regional stakeholder and doing one final cross-checking between ourselves and the industry, and then that will lead then to the adoption, which is an activity that we hope to take place within the next 2 months. One outcome out of the policy is for the ministry to develop what we're going to call a local content database, whereby companies that would like then to participate as service providers in Namibia, we can have a one-stop shop where we have a database where they can then be able to be registered and can be vetted for. And if anybody is looking for suppliers of Namibian goods and services, there will be a one-stop point where they can go on. So we are in the final stage of also developing that platform where they can register. And once that is established, we will make an announcement for the market to make use of it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maggie. Ian, the last one for you. I'd like to know what your 10-year outlook is on Namibia, on the exploration space. And the reason I'm asking you that is because I know that you look across the board, you look at many countries, you look at places like Guyana, you look as well at, the global outlook in terms of pricing with respect to where we are, whether you think that projected prices are going to be the likes where exploration is going to be interesting. And if at all that's the case, many other exploration players likely to follow the example of the likes of Total and Galp in the country in that sense.
Yeah, well, if you look at exploration trends in recent years, it's been very focused on deep water and the companies that are, drilling more of the wells. It's the majors in partnership with NOCs, and I expect that trend to continue. So you've got opportunities to make large discoveries, deep water. So I think Namibia is pretty well placed to continue to see activity. Maybe we see the likes of a Petrobras take some acreage. Woodside, it looked very closely at the pan-continental block, but I suspect they've still got an eye on other parts of the basin, more in the sweet spot. So I think we're going to continue to see some decent level of drilling activity.
Thank you so very much. Thank you to my panel, Ian. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. A huge thank you to the team at the African Energy Chamber, as well as Energy Capital and Power, the whole bunch of people behind here, as well as Woodmac, who worked to make this work. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all at Africa Energy Week, 29th of September to the 3rd of October. We would be having this conversation to continue, as well as other conversations. Thank you so very much, and have a blessed day or night, wherever it is that you are. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.